You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 239, How to Tell Your Friends and Family About Your Breakup. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, breakup coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Welcome, Braveheart. I'm so excited you're here to listen to the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast. This is the Netflix of breakups, short, powerful, and actionable episodes that help you along your breakup journey. If you're interested in a more hands-on approach, I'd love to invite you to check out our free on-demand video training called How to Fast Forward Getting Over Your Ex Without Wasting Months or Years Feeling Jealous, Angry, or Unlovable. You'll learn how to stop letting your ex live rent-free in your mind, even if you want to get back together later, how to absolutely be sure that your life will be better than the one that you had with your ex post-breakup without it taking time, and lastly, the secret to feeling completely neutral about your ex without having to go no contact. Grab it for free at breakupcoachdorothy.com. Let's begin the episode. Hello, beautiful Bravehearts. I hope everyone is well. I am sending all of the love. Today, I want to talk to you about how do we tell our friends and family and those close to you about what has happened, whether that was a breakup, whether it's the divorce. Now, for some of you, this comes really easily and just automatic, and for others, it doesn't. And honestly, for some of you, it's really unintentional, and for others, you want it to be more intentional. And I want to remind you that there's no one way that's better than the other. These are all just experiences. So you truly do have to go with what feels right for you. Now, this can be especially difficult when your friends and family loved you together with that person and actually still kind of maybe even want you to both work out. And you're like, yeah, me too, right? So it may be difficult for that reason. Now, it might be difficult for the fact that you have to rehash all of the details, or you think you have to rehash all of the details and you're worried it's going to be a really painful experience explaining everything that happened. And here's the thing, it may be painful, but this conversation can also be used as a powerful moment at the same time. Now, if you're anything like me, you've already word vomited all of it probably in real time with those closest to you or some acquaintances even and strangers. That was me. I literally have the hardest time not saying what's truly going on in my life. And I think sometimes it's a problem and other times I'm like, you know what? I love this about myself. So you'll always know pretty much what's going on with me. So if that's you and you've already shared this with a lot of people around what happened, awesome, amazing. You've moved through that experience and you can totally use the rest of this episode to determine how you might want to hold the story of this experience from here on out. And if you want to use this to tell anyone else who's been who's left to be told, amazing. But just know that if you didn't do something like this or you didn't think of these things before now, don't beat yourself up or anything for having done it in a different way. And truthfully, I think a lot of times breakups can happen slowly over a period of time, and it's like this slow burn and falling apart. And then people know bits and pieces of the situation, or you've talked about the falling out in real time. And so this might not be as kind of like hard and fast, like they either know or they don't know. Some people know some bits and pieces, things like that. Now, if you're someone who likes to keep things to themselves and you haven't shared everything, this is for you totally. I want to walk you through a process that's been super helpful for myself. And it's not even a process, it's more of things that I want you to remember before you choose what you want to share and what you don't want to share. This is what I also use with my clients who are more private. And so you can use this same process for your friends, for your family, for your children. These are just really important things for you to know and to remember before having this conversation. So let's talk about, I think it's 5 points. I could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's 5 points here that I wanted to make that I feel like you need to remember before having this conversation. Number one, there doesn't have to be a villain and a victim. This is so hard to remember. There totally can be, totally situations where there is, but there doesn't have to be. And I think this goes for relationships where there's like no one really did something wrong, right? And I see this actually happen a lot where relationships will dissolve and they wait for it to get bad enough where they have something to take to be like, okay, that person did this wrong thing and now we can split, now we can break up. Whereas truthfully, both of you just weren't in it and felt like you needed a reason to leave. And so you find whatever reason you can. But if you've left before that point, or you've decided to not be in this relationship, or the other person has decided to not be in the relationship, and there's no real thing that's gone wrong, remember that two people can just decide that they don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And it doesn't mean that either one of them is right or wrong or good or bad. There does not have to be a villain or a victim. Now, there totally can be, right? And I just want to mention, though, that even in those moments, if you can get off the pendulum of there's a bad guy and a good guy, the easier this conversation can be. And of course, when we feel like we were wronged, this is really hard to do. My ex left me for another girl a weekish after the ending of our 7-year relationship. So trust me when I say I get this. Now, that doesn't mean I don't share the facts of the story or how I felt or how I'm feeling or what you choose to believe in, but you can do it in a powerful way rather than a victim-y way. Does that make sense? It's like less whiny and more powerful. It reminds me of Ariana Madix from Vanderpump Rules, very strong in her situation. Like she's very clear about what happened wasn't okay. I don't agree with it. Here are the facts, and I'm working on moving forward from it. And here's how I'm going to do that. And I'd like your support in this way. It's very powerful, succinct. Even though she technically was the victim in that experience, it's almost like she's removed herself from that and then presents herself in this way of, here are the facts of the situation. I don't agree with it. I'm not okay with it. I'm devastated. And here's how I'd like your help and support moving forward. And she's very clear with no contact. And of course, that rule is, totally up to you. Now, this brings me to my second point, which I think is really important before you go in to have a conversation or just in general to remind yourself, is people have no idea how to support you. Let me say that again. People have no idea how to support you. Most humans don't know what to say. They feel awkward with emotion and they literally have no idea what to do in these situations. Whether you're grieving someone who died, whether you're grieving someone who's still alive, this is territory that most humans just have no idea how to respond to and are petrified of saying the wrong thing. So just let them know what you'd like from them, even if it is nothing. Even if there's nothing you actually need from them, let them know that. Right? I don't need anything from you, but I just wanted to let you know what was going on. Or I'd love for you to be supportive. And the best way you could do that is by telling me and reminding me that I'm only going up from here. And perhaps if your friends or family like to bash the other person or talk negatively about the other person and that doesn't feel good to you, you can share that, right? The most supportive thing you could do for me right now is not bad talk my ex in front of me and just be my biggest cheerleader right now and remind me I'm going to be okay and I'm going to be better than okay and help lift me up. Now, if they really want you to work out, tell them it's okay that they want that. It's okay that they have that viewpoint, but you don't want to hear about it. If you're in the space of like, I cannot hear about that, I totally understand. You've just got to decide what's most helpful in your journey and how can they support you. And if you start out the conversation like that, most of the time it's beautiful because you set the stage for them to succeed in that conversation. Now, of course, we've got to recognize that humans are humans. We do human things. We say human things. So even if you do share your requests, remember that they're requests and people may not follow them. And then that's where we get to talk about boundaries, and that's where we get to decide, how do I want to respond, or what do I want to do when someone's not upholding these boundaries? For example, I watch a lot of Vanderpump Rules. So right now, Ariana Madix is just coming to mind. She was cheated on by her long-term boyfriend with her best friend and one of her best friends. Long story short, I really love and admire what she's done in her situation, where she really has made it clear to her friends, the mutual friends, of, for me, and when I'm saying me, I'm talking about her, if you hang out with him, I'm not hanging out with you. And she's kind of going across, like, we're only partway through the season, so I don't know if she's actually upheld this boundary or not. But remember, a boundary is more about what you do, not what the other person does. So if you say, hey, mom, what's best supportive and what's most supportive for me is if you don't bad talk my ex. And then let's say a week down the road, she's bad talking your ex in front of you. Your boundary wouldn't be, you need to stop doing this, period. Your boundary is, hey, if you bad talk my ex, I'm actually going to get up and leave the room, or I'm actually going to hang up the phone, or I'm not going to be around. That's something that you have control over, versus like setting a boundary where you think you're telling the other person what to do. A boundary is all about you. So you've got to be really clear about that. But you don't even have to do that until there's a boundary violation. And so that's why being upfront about how someone can support you is so helpful for not only them, but also for you. Because most of the time, I want to say 98% of the time, if you say, hey, this is what's most supportive for me, they do that. And if they don't, then that's a conversation for you around boundaries. All right. So number 3, be aware of the story in your head and how it feels. And by what I mean by story is, I mean, be aware of the breakup story. What is your breakup story in your head, and how does it feel to you? Because whatever the story is inside of your head right now, it will have an influence over the story you share, even if those words don't match. And what I mean is, the energy you have will influence the story you tell. Just think about this. If someone was reading a fairy tale to a little kid and that person hates fairy tales, that will sound different than someone reading a fairy tale who loves and believes in them and has good thoughts about them. So does the story in your head feel powerful, or does it feel angry or bitter? Neither is right or wrong or good or bad, and we're not being aware of this to change it. We just want to be aware of it and then preface our conversation with it, right? So for example, hey, I need to share something with you, but first I want you to know that right now I'm feeling completely devastated by the story I have about this. So a lot of devastation might come through, or a lot of anger and bitterness might be coming through right now, and I might feel different later in the future. Which brings me to another point that I wanted to talk about is things change. Please remind your people that you change, that thoughts change, that feelings change. And even though you're feeling this way now, doesn't mean it will last forever. So just because this is your current experience, don't be alarmed if I change my story later so that I can change how I feel. I do this all the time with my mom and my dad, because they hold on to something and they're like, but you were this one person this one time, so now you'll forever be that one person. And then sometimes I notice they're like years behind who I am or what I think or what I believe. And one of my favorite things actually that my husband says to me is, I reserve the right to change my mind later. And we say this back and forth to one another for so many things, including the stories that we have going on in our head and our feelings. So point number 5, the last one that I want to make before kind of summing this all up is, remember, you don't know what's best for other people. This is a hard one, especially if we are parents and you might think you know what's best for your children. We need to remind ourselves that everyone is a soul in a human body having their own experience and their own journey. And their own journey is influenced by their own lived experiences And none of it is for you to take on and make your own when it doesn't serve or help you get to where you're going. So treat people the way you want to be treated, share in a way you'd want to be shared with. And if it doesn't land for someone else or they wish you would have done it differently, let them wish that. That's okay. That's not on you. You're doing the best you can with your feelings. Your job is not to manage theirs. You've got a heck of a job managing yours. Own your own lane. You are not their lane. Now, of course, obviously, if you have children, helping them learn how to process their feelings, that is your job, period. Helping your children learn how to process feelings and emotions is your job. But making sure or preventing them from getting feelings or from having feelings, that is not your job. Those are two very different things, and please keep those things separately when you're thinking about sharing a divorce or a breakup that you know is going to impact them. They chose you as their parent for a reason. They were meant to have this journey with you, but recognize your job is not to prevent them from having feelings. Your job is to help them learn how to process emotion. They will experience heartbreak in their lifetime. They absolutely will. Help them learn how to move through that. All right. So keeping all of that in mind, I really like to approach the conversation with love, with the expectation that my family and my friends will love and support me in ways they know how, but most importantly, I will love and support myself. I'm going to have my own back. And although this is a very undesirable situation, or perhaps a situation you really, really hate right now, it doesn't mean I'm undeserving of love and support. Please repeat that. This doesn't mean I'm undeserving of love and support. I also want to remind you, right, that thoughts create feelings. So if you notice feelings coming up in your story, of course, some parts of your story, they are painful. And we don't have to remove those to feel less pain. We want to feel the pain around those devastating moments. And if you didn't feel devastated about this, I'd be kind of concerned, right? This is something that is devastating. Let that all be there and share and connect with those who love you and thought this would turn out differently. Healing happens in connection with others. So sharing this journey and what happened and the details and the intricacies, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, this experience doesn't have to be something that hinders your healing. It is actually something that very much helps and aids in you getting over your ex and building your bigger and better life. And remember, at some point in your breakup journey, you will rewrite your breakup story. And just to give you information, is in the Get Over Your Ex program, we do that after feeling our feelings and after rebuilding the relationship with ourselves. We create closure and then we rewrite the breakup story. And I've got episodes for every single component of that in the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast. So you can definitely do that. And I highly recommend first allowing the feelings to come through, allowing yourself to build a relationship with yourself so that you trust yourself, you feel confident, you've forgiven yourself, because rewriting the breakup story before you do those things can feel almost like you're lying to yourself. All right. And remember, we do this not to omit pain or get rid of it, the rewriting of your breakup story. We're not omitting the pain or trying to, not have it there. It's so that it ends in a more powerful direction. You feel in control of the next chapter because you felt in control of writing this present chapter. Okay. All right, my brave hearts. I love you so much. I hope you are able to take these points and you're able to understand what feels right for you when it comes to telling your friends and family about your breakup or your divorce. And please, 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 the point of all of this is to remember that moving through that experience of sharing this information with those that you love and who support you is really going to be something that helps your healing journey it doesn't hinder it. All right. Have an amazing week. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you next time. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you'd like to learn how to fast forward getting over your ex without spending months or years feeling angry, jealous, or unlovable, I would love to personally invite you to participate in our free on-demand video training, where we share 3 mind-blowing moments that will forever change your experience with your breakup or divorce. Come check it out at breakupcoachdorothy.com.